Didn't work out the first time. Well, now it's round 2. And this time, it's personal. We're a little upset. You know, we tried the test and we thought we studied, but we took the questions, so we're like, whoa, I don't know the answers, and oh my gosh, I saw my test grade, it was a disaster. And now we want to take another shot at this. Let's do it. Let's pay attention to this video. Now, I want you to take out that piece of paper that has all the blanks on it. Now, I'm going to go through each slide. Each slide is going to relate to a question or to a number. And when you get to a blank, you look for the red text, and you're going to write in the red text into the blank. That's going to create the most premium study guide you could ever imagine in your life. You're going to take that and make note cards from it, and then you're going to study those note cards, and then you're going to take this test again, and you are going to destroy it because it is round 2, and this time it's personal. Now, we're going to talk about information all the way from tariffs to early women's rights. Let's jump right into this. Take out your piece of paper, and let's talk tariffs. Now, think about this. I want you to pretend you're either a shirt maker from New York or you're a cotton grower from Georgia, okay? Let's start with shirt maker from New York. You got a business, you make shirts. England makes shirts too. You know what would be great? If we could make the English shirt more expensive. If we could put a tax on it that made your goods more cheap, and then you could sell more shirts. Wouldn't that be great? That's called a tariff. The industrial, right in industrial north, favored high protective tariffs, which would literally protect the prices and make their goods more cheap. And industrial, we mean making stuff like making shirts. That protected northern manufacturer from foreign, F-O-R-E-I-G-N, competition. Right in foreign, I believe my face is blocking it. So the North loves protective tariffs. Remember I said you were a cotton grower from Georgia? Okay, you're a cotton grower from Georgia. You don't like tariffs. Because you grow cotton, you don't make shirts. Where do you buy your shirts from? England? They make good shirts. Well, now with a tariff, their stuff coming from England is more expensive. So you are opposed to high protective tariffs, which increase the price of imports. Okay, that's tariffs. Quick and dirty. We'll talk more tariffs as we go through this course, but that's tariffs. Let's talk about Supreme Court cases. Now, remember, we've already talked about Marbury versus Madison, which establishes judicial review, the power of the courts to declare a law unconstitutional. Remember, Marbury has lots of R's in it. Review. Let's talk about a couple more cases and ways to remember them. First one, number 3. Got a question for you. Can the state tax the federal government? Well, I remember that federal law is supreme law of the land, so I'm guessing no. Oh, I'm right. Can states tax agencies of the federal government? The answer is no. A Supreme Court case decided that. And that Supreme Court case was called McCulloch versus Maryland. All right. Bank of the United States, the idea of Alexander Hamilton, the Federalist, was put in place in Maryland and other places, but there was one in Maryland. And Maryland hated the bank, so Maryland tried to tax the bank. The answer is Maryland cannot tax the bank, so that was decided. The case, it said the bank is okay because of implied powers, which means not written down. There's nothing in the Constitution that says there can be a Bank of the United States, but the Constitution does say that the federal government can regulate interstate commerce, which means you need a bank to do that. So implied powers establishes the bank. This is the foundation for the Supreme Court to mediate between levels of government, fighting it out between state and national government. Now, I look at this right here. Ready? Check this out. M. McCulloch. We're looking at McCulloch right now. You see this double L right here? Double L, you see that? Go ahead and put an S over the double L. You know what that means? Money, baby. That means dollar bills, y'all. And where do you get dollar bill, y'all? You get them from the bank. This is the bank case. Remember that. Another Supreme Court case for you. You had a state that wanted to establish a steamboat monopoly and impose that monopoly on other states. What? Whoa. We got states that are trying to take over interstate commerce. Who controls interstate commerce? The states or the national government? Well, that case was called Gibbons versus Ogden. And Gibbons versus Ogden established a broad national view of economic affairs. and is the foundation for the Supreme Court to mediate between competing business interests. Okay? So the national government controls interstate commerce, not the state government. Now you can look at it in the name. We got two B's here in Gibbons. Boats, business. You see those two B's, think boats, business. I know what you're saying. How am I supposed to ever remember that? Okay, I thought of another way for you to remember it. Look at the two B's. You can say business, boats. Let's see. There's two. Early U.S. expansion. How did the United States keep getting bigger? Well, one thing, the United States started throwing its weight around with the Monroe Doctrine. Right in Monroe, M-O-N-R-O-E. Monroe from James Monroe, who states this. You ready for a lot of stuff? Let's go with a lot of stuff. Oh, my gosh! Here we go. The American continents, North America, South America, Central America, should not be considered for future European colonizations. Europe! You stay out of this land. Do not cross the ocean and come over here. Because we're better than you are. Nations in the Western Hemisphere were republics by nature. Different than you in Europe. You are monarchies. Monarchies by nature. If you do, we're going to get involved. The U.S. would intervene if Europe attempted future colonization in the U.S. and in the Americas. But we're not going to go up to Europe. We're not going to interfere with your European affairs. No thanks, don't want it. No, 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 no. Hey, European country, I'm thinking of one. It's Spain. Spain possessed Florida. We wanted Florida. We put some pressure on Spain to give up Florida, and they did. The territory of Florida was acquired by a treaty with Spain. That is the Adams-Onis Treaty. So we got Spain. Let's expand some more. Let's do business. Let's connect the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean. To do that, we're going to have to dig ourselves a canal. The Erie Canal connected east and west by connecting the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean. You could jump from one lake to another, hop on the Erie Canal, takes you right to the Hudson River, dumps you into the Atlantic Ocean. Erie Canal connects east to west via the Erie Canal. Cool. Hey, here's another thing. We got all these roads that are developing, roads and turnpikes. Helps people go east to west, baby, east to west. Westward expansion is getting more and more prevalent as road and turnpike development increases. All right? All right. Let's talk presidents. You know, some presidents are more powerful than others. Let me tell you about a powerful president. That'd be this guy right here, Andrew Jackson, or as I like to call him, Action Jackson, because he was a man of action, good or bad. Here's one action. When he was elected president, he wanted to give government jobs to his supporters. This system is called the spoils system. The spoils system providing government jobs to supporters. Andrew Jackson's idea is that these supporters are the people, the majority, because they have elected me to be president. Therefore, they should get government jobs, the jobs of the federal government. That is the spoils system. Another thing, when he became president, you didn't have to own land anymore to vote. The elimination of property qualifications benefited Andrew Jackson. This led to an expanded democracy. Didn't need to own land anymore to vote. Cool? Not cool one, Trail of Tears. Which Native American tribe was forced to march in the Trail of Tears from Georgia to Oklahoma? That was the Cherokee, right in Cherokee. Andrew Jackson was principally behind the Trail of Tears and is the biggest stain on his presidency. Trail of Tears, Cherokee, Georgia to Oklahoma. What about that Bank of the United States? Did Andrew Jackson like the bank? No, Andrew Jackson hated the bank. Andrew Jackson used the veto, right in veto, V-E-T-O, to end the Bank of the United States. Why did he hate the Bank of the United States? He viewed the bank as a tool of the rich. Write this in because he saw the bank as a tool of the rich. He believed that their interest rates were violating a Western farmer and the rich were making money off of it, the northern elite. So he vetoed and killed the Bank of the United States. So he sounds like a man of action. Sounds like a guy you don't want to piss off. Well, that's what South Carolina did. South Carolina, hating tariffs, remember, let's say you're a cotton grower in South Carolina, you don't like tariffs, they threatened to nullify. Hit it with the, woo! End snap, baby! Nullify The tariff of 1832. They did not want to pay it, so they ignored it. Andrew Jackson said, you will not ignore federal law. Federal law is supreme over state. Deal with it. So Andrew Jackson responded by, write this in, threatening to send federal troops to collect revenue. He threatened to send federal troops to collect the tariff revenue. South Carolina said, okay, all right, we back off. We will not nullify it. But it kind of like planted this seed which would grow into this idea that states can ignore the federal government, which would eventually lead to civil war. Whoa, whoa. Later test, like next test. All right, quickly on slavery and abolition. We have abolitionists forming in the North, and one of them is William Lloyd Garrison. William Lloyd Garrison published an anti-slavery newspaper called The Liberator. The Liberator, the Liberator, the Liberator. William Lloyd Garrison was a very religious man who thought that slavery was a violation of, write this in, Christian principles, and argued for its abolition. William Lloyd Garrison would say Jesus Christ died not just for me, but for everyone, including blacks. So why do we have black slavery? We should have no slavery at all. One way to remember this is William Lloyd Garrison, and he wrote The Liberator. Think Lloyd Liberator. Lloyd Liberator. There's a couple L's in there. Lloyd Liberator. Got it? Great, good, awesome, love it, beautiful. I love it. Don't love this because it's violent. Big time stuff. Slave revolts in Virginia. By, write this in, Nat Turner and Gabriel Prosser fed white Southerners fears. Right in Nat Turner. Gabriel Prosser. Both in Virginia. Gabriel Prosser planned a slave rebellion which never took hold. Nat Turner executed one in which 33 whites were killed. And in retaliation, over 100 blacks were killed in Virginia. Now, what did this do? Well, it led to harsh laws in the South against fugitive slaves. Very harsh laws, because the slaves in the form of Nat Turner and Gabriel Prosser are trying rebellions. So the whites say, let's keep them from doing that again, and let's respond by bringing greater punishment, harsher fugitive slave laws. Hey, let's talk about a slave compromise. So you got some slave states and you got some free states. And what people want to do is keep a balance of power in the Senate. Remember, all states, everyone's equal. So what they decided to do is, follow my cursor right here, they draw a line right here. It's called the Missouri Compromise line. And it says if you're below the line, there can be slavery. If you're above the line, there cannot be slavery. Except for Missouri. Missouri's above the line, but they get to be slave. And the state of Maine was created to balance out Missouri. Maine free, Missouri slave. So write this in. Here we go. Missouri Compromise drew an east-west line. Slavery was prohibited above the line, meaning no slavery above, allowed below, with the exception of Missouri. Now, this compromise is like sweeping dirt under a rug to try to avoid the big issue of slavery. But the big issue of slavery will stay around and expand and swallow up the United States of America between 1861 and 1865. Manifest Destiny. The United States expanding all the way to the west. Here we go. Manifest Destiny was a belief that Americans should spread from the Atlantic to the Pacific, that all that land in between, ocean to ocean, it doesn't matter if it belongs to anyone else, it is going to become American land. So we have lots of wars that are Manifest Destiny style wars, one of which kind of is the Texas Revolution. This is where Texans, not United States, not U.S., Texans, fought against Mexico. Americans migrated to Texas, revolted against Mexico. The most famous battle was the Battle of the Alamo. A-L-A-M-O. You know what they said at the Battle of the Alamo? Remember the Alamo. Why remember the Alamo? Because every single Texan died at the Battle of the Alamo. They fought to the last man. They fought to the last man, but eventually they would win the Texas Revolution. Texas was its own country. Texas would later be added to the United States. You see that? That's Manifest Destiny stuff. That's adding land. Now, a later war will be directly with Mexico, from the United States against Mexico. This is won by the United States, and the treaty was the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo gives the United States an enormous amount of land. I mean a ton of dirt. And that dirt might not seem like much, but gold will be discovered a year later. And then everybody wants that dirt. And then it expands. Does slavery expand? What does this lead to? This leads to war. But right now, it's just the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo giving away an enormous amount of land. Hey, last topic. Interesting topic. Early women's rights movement. The Seneca Falls Declaration up in New York granted equal rights for women, or stated they desired equal rights for women. Education rights, rights within the household, voting rights. Who led this Seneca Falls Declaration? The leader was Elizabeth Cady Stanton. They would not get the right to vote, but it plants the seed, and later the right to vote will be granted. That, my friends, is all that there is for this topic. Study it, make the note cards. Get your grind on, and be ready to rock and roll for part 2. Because this time, it's personal.